The stars were quiet, too quiet. In a dark part of the galaxy, a small listening post floated near a dying sun. It had no crew, just machines and old tech scanning space. Every day it listened to thousands of signals. Most were boring, old songs, ship logs, or random noise from space. But one day everything changed. A strange signal came through. It was broken, like something damaged was trying to speak. The machines froze. Then the signal played. It started with static, then a scream. Not human, not known. It was deep, sharp, full of fear. Then came the sound of explosions, metal breaking, something tearing through the void. There were no words, but the meaning was clear. Destruction, panic, a warning. The machines sent the signal to Earth. On Earth, deep in the main defense center, alarms rang. The room was full of officers and analysts. When the signal played, everyone stopped moving. Even the commander, an old man who had seen too many wars, went silent. "This isn't from us," someone whispered. "Where did it come from?" the commander asked. "We don't know," replied the tech. "But it's real. It's not a fake, and it's close. It came from a nearby star system." The commander stood. "Send scouts. Now." 3 human scout ships left Earth, small, fast, and built for deep space. Their mission: follow the signal, find the source, report back. No contact, no fighting. Just answers. They reached the system in days. But what they found was not a planet. It was ruins. 4 planets had once been here. Now only dust remained. Giant chunks of rock floated where a world had been. Ships were everywhere, broken, melted, torn apart. Huge symbols were burned into the moons. No one knew what they meant. "This wasn't a war," one scout said. "It was a warning." They scanned deeper. One of the moons had a strange mark. It looked like a message, but it wasn't in any known language. Still, everyone who saw it felt the same thing: fear. Suddenly, one of the scout ships picked up movement. "Something's here," the pilot said. "It's watching us." The signal came again, but this time it was stronger. On Earth, the signal repeated. Scientists tried to study it, break it apart, understand it. But something was wrong. Every time they got closer, the machines crashed. Screens turned black. Systems shut down. This signal, "It's alive," one tech said. "Alive?" the commander asked. "Yes, it's reacting to us, like it knows we're listening." A new scan showed something terrifying. The signal wasn't just a message, it was a map. It pointed to other systems, other stars, and each one had a red mark beside it, systems where life once lived, but now only silence remained. "How many systems have fallen?" someone asked. The answer came slowly. "At least 30, maybe more." The commander's face turned cold. "And Earth is on the map?" "Yes, we're next." The scout ships prepared to return, but before they could leave, something dropped out of hyperspace. It wasn't human. It was massive, black, sharp, and pulsing with red light. It didn't speak. It didn't ask. It just charged weapons. "Run!" the human pilot shouted. Too late. The first scout ship exploded. The second was hit, engines gone. Only one ship escaped, jumping back to Earth with broken systems and burned metal. The last thing the crew saw before jumping was a fleet of alien ships arriving, silent, organized, and deadly. Back on Earth, the surviving scout ship crashed into the landing bay. The crew inside were injured, burned, but alive. One of them held a small device. "It's inside," he said weakly. The full signal, the full message. The device was plugged in, the room filled with light and sound. But this time, the signal didn't just scream. It showed images. Dark shapes moving through space, giant ships crushing planets, cities burning in seconds. No talks, no peace. Just destruction. At the end of the message, one final image appeared. Earth, highlighted in red. The room went silent. The commander turned to his team. "This isn't a war of territory," he said. "It's not a fight over resources." "Then what is it?" someone asked. "It's extinction," he said. "They're not coming to fight us. They're coming to erase us." He stood tall. "Alert. All colonies. Lock down defense networks. Call every ship we have. Earth is now at war." The stars no longer felt quiet, and in the shadows of deep space, something was already moving. The sky above Earth looked calm, but space was boiling with fear. High Command had declared Galactic War Level 1, a level not touched in over 200 years. Civilian broadcasts were cut, warships left orbit, old bunkers opened, and far away in the dark stretch beyond Pluto, Earth's early warning satellites began to blink. Something was coming, and it wasn't hiding. On the edge of the solar system, deep patrol ships waited. They were small but fast, designed to scan and watch. Inside one ship, the pilot sat in silence, staring at the radar. Then it happened. Multiple pings, then hundreds, then thousands. Contact. Multiple objects approaching fast, unknown engines. No response to calls. The commander's voice came through the radio. "Do not fire unless fired upon." But the alien fleet wasn't here to talk. The first ship arrived, black and sharp like a blade, glowing red at its edges. It didn't slow down, it didn't change course. It slammed straight into a patrol ship at full speed, breaking both into pieces. "Open fire!" the pilot screamed. Missiles launched. Lasers lit up the sky. But for every alien ship destroyed, 5 more replaced it. They weren't ships. They were weapons. Earth defense watched the screen in shock. "We lost 4 patrol lines in less than 1 minute. These ships, they don't even dodge. They just take the hits and keep coming." The commander clenched his fist. "They're not here to win battles. They're here to send a message." Someone whispered, "What message?" "We are already dead." Meanwhile, on a human colony 2 jumps away from Earth, families were eating, children were laughing, and the sky was blue. Then the sky turned black. Hundreds of alien ships appeared without warning. No sound, no lights, just fire. The colonies. Defense system activated. Ground turrets, orbital shields, and every fighter they had rose to fight. But it wasn't enough. The aliens didn't land. They didn't ask for surrender. They hovered above cities and dropped fire from orbit. Glass towers melted, forests exploded. People ran, but there was nowhere to go. The last broadcast from the colony showed one thing: a child holding a flag staring at the sky before everything turned white. Earth received the signal only minutes later. The commander didn't speak. He just nodded. "Launch protocol, Phase 1, engage the fleet." From hidden bases in the asteroid belt, giant human warships powered on. Ships that hadn't flown in a century. Engines groaned. Weapon systems woke up. These were the old monsters, built in another era, made for a war that never came. Until now, each ship was controlled by only a few humans. The rest of the systems were AI-driven. The fleet had one job: buy Earth time to prepare. They jumped straight to the colony's ashes and found the alien fleet still waiting. The humans didn't ask questions. They opened fire. The space above the colony turned into chaos. Massive plasma bursts, nuclear shells, and ion storms filled the void. Human ships fought harder than anyone expected. They cut through enemy ranks with precision. They used old Earth tactics: traps, fake signals, suicide drones, and for the first time, the alien fleet stepped back, but only for a moment. A new ship arrived, 10 times bigger than any others. It didn't attack. It simply looked at the battlefield, and then it spoke. One word. Not in any known language, but everyone felt it inside their minds. Resist. Suffer. The human fleet paused for just a second. That second was enough. The giant alien ship opened a side panel. Inside, a sphere of pure black light pulsed. The next moment, 5 human ships vanished. Not exploded, not destroyed, just gone. Deleted. From space. The human fleet retreated. What else could they do? They had just seen something new. a weapon beyond war. The commander on Earth watched it all in real time. They're not just conquerors, they're cleaners, they wipe out entire histories. He turned to his staff. Send the call. Global. To who? Someone asked. To everyone. Every colony. Every base. Every human. This isn't just a war. It's survival. A message went out to all of humanity. Prepare for full engagement. This is not a drill. This is the fight for existence. And in the dark corner of the galaxy, behind the alien fleet, more ships were waking up. Massive, silent. Like ghosts. The true force was still waiting. The first battle was over. The real war had just begun. The alien ships had left, but only after burning a human colony to ash. Earth was still standing. But everyone knew. Not for long. Inside the main command chamber, the atmosphere was heavy. No one smiled. No one relaxed. A giant screen showed the destroyed colony. Nothing left. Just smoke, silence, and the wrecks of brave human ships. The commander looked at the stars. They won't stop, not until we're gone. Then we won't stop either, someone said. The commander nodded. It's time. He turned a key. A red light blinked on the wall. Then another, and another. Far below the Earth's surface, massive doors opened. Long-forgotten bunkers came to life. Inside them sat the old giants, the death fleets. These weren't new ships. These were monsters from another time, from Earth's darkest wars. Each one was the size of a city. Black hulls, spiked armor, cannons, larger than skyscrapers. They were never meant for show. They were meant to end wars in hours. They had been silent for 100 years. Now they woke up together. Old AI systems blinked. Fuel lines hissed. Power surged through metal bones. Earth's ghosts had returned. News of the reactivation spread fast. Across Earth's colonies, across Mars, Titan, and even the far ice cities near Neptune, people stopped what they were doing. The death fleets were back. Fear turned into fire. Workers became soldiers. Farmers grabbed rifles. Children watched as skies filled with shadows, but they weren't afraid. They were ready. Because death fleets meant one thing. Earth was serious. In a hidden hangar above the moon, one of the oldest warships finished booting up. It had no name, just a number, Unit 07B. Built during the last Earth War, it had never seen battle. It was too dangerous, too powerful. But now, Earth needed it. As the last crew member boarded, the ship's AI spoke for the first time in a century. Request received. Protect humanity. Engaging full combat mode. Prepare for enemy extinction. Meanwhile, the alien empire had not stopped moving. In their dark space, they watched the human response. The strange rise of old, deadly ships. The change in human tone. One alien leader spoke. This species refuses to kneel, another replied. Then, we make them burn harder. They sent a second wave, 5 times larger, faster, smarter. This was no longer a test. This was invasion. Their plan, surround Earth and crush its systems one by one. But they made one mistake. They thought Earth was still scared. When the alien fleet reached the edge of the solar system, they didn't find helpless humans. They found a wall of death. Thousands of human warships stood in silence. Behind them, the death fleets waited. The lead alien ship scanned them. Outdated tech. Weak. Then one of the human ships blinked. Then another. And then they vanished. Not destroyed. Cloaked, and from the black, they struck. Massive beams tore through the dark. Alien ships exploded before they could react. Earth's new tactics were brutal. They didn't fight clean. They used every trick. Gravity bombs, pulse mines, dark matter nets. Alien ships screamed in confusion. They hide. They vanish. They reappear behind us. One by one, enemy ships were ripped apart. But Earth wasn't perfect. Every win came with a loss. Each time a human ship exploded, the crew yelled the same word. For Earth, the death fleets didn't stop. They didn't retreat. They pressed. Forward. like old war gods returning to a battle they had been born for. In one corner of the battle, an alien flagship charged its main cannon. The energy was enough to break a moon, but before it could fire, a human dreadnought crashed into it full speed. No escape, no survivors, just fire. The alien fleet started pulling back. They had come to invade. Now they just wanted to survive. Back. On Earth, people watched the battle live, every screen, every city. One voice echoed across the planet. They came for our end, but saw our beginning. The death fleets didn't chase the retreating enemy. They didn't speak. They simply turned and faced the stars, because more were coming. This wasn't the final wave. This was only the start. And now the galaxy knew. Humanity doesn't fall quietly. The galaxy had seen human fire. Now, it would see human pain. The enemy's second wave was crushed. Earth's death fleets had proven one thing: humans were not weak. But victory came at a heavy price. Dozens of cities in orbit were gone. Human colonies trembled. And in deep space, something worse was stirring. Back in Earth's war room, a cold message arrived. Third moon under siege. Contact lost. The room froze. The third moon wasn't just a base. It was a vital shield hub protecting outer colonies and controlling deep space defenses. Losing it meant one thing: Earth was vulnerable. A recon drone sent one final image before vanishing. A black cloud. Not smoke, not ships, something else. The AI tried to scan it but shut down instantly. The system screamed, "Unknown matter detected. Not mechanical, not natural, not safe." The commander leaned forward. "Send a fleet. Now." But it was already too late. The third moon sat alone in orbit, silent. Its crew of 10,000 waited for help, but none came. Instead, a new form of enemy arrived. Silent creatures, not ships. They looked like shadows made of sharp light. They didn't talk. They didn't fly in straight lines. They just appeared. Inside rooms, behind doors, inside the very walls. First, the lights failed. Then, the gravity shifted. Then, the screams began. One soldier tried to shoot them. His bullets passed through the creatures. He ran to warn the command bridge. When he got there, the walls were already covered in strange symbols glowing red. His last message: they're inside everything. They're not invading, they're eating. Then silence. The moon's lights went dark. The third moon had fallen. Back on Earth, emergency channels filled with static. But in between the static, a single whisper echoed. Not human, not language, just a feeling. Everyone heard it differently. To some, it sounded like a scream. To others, it sounded like their own voice. Crying. To the commander, it sounded like a question. "Do you still think you can win?" He didn't answer. He turned to his staff. His voice was steady. "Activate Project Avalanche." Across the system, ancient bunkers unlocked. The ground cracked open. Massive missiles rolled out. These weren't just weapons. These were planet breakers. Each missile had one purpose. If a world fell, it would not be left to the enemy. The code was simple. If they take it, we burn it. In deep space, one human survivor from the third moon floated in a damaged escape pod. His suit was broken, his oxygen low, blood floated inside his helmet. But he had one thing: the final recording from the moon's core room, a small, black cube. His pod was found 2 days later. He was dead, but the cube wasn't. Back on Earth, they decoded it. What it showed terrified even the strongest commanders. Inside the third moon, the alien shadows weren't just killing. They were changing the moon's surface, shifting metal, growing new limbs from walls, turning the moon into something else. A weapon? A hive? A message? No one knew. But it had one clear center, a dark core, glowing red, pulsing like a heart. The commander ordered it destroyed, A death fleet was sent. When the human ships arrived, the third moon no longer looked like a moon. It looked like an eye, open, alive, watching. The fleet fired every weapon they had, missiles, cannons, sun torches. The moon cracked, it screamed, and then it exploded, but not like a normal blast. The pieces floated, and still moved. Back on Earth, everyone watched the explosion. And then, a message appeared on every screen. No sound. Just a red shape. Not words, but meaning. 3 symbols burned into the stars, 1 fallen, 2 waiting, 3 approaching. What does it mean? Someone asked. The commander didn't blink. It means they're not done. It means the third moon was only the beginning. The death fleets returned home. But Earth was changed. Fear was no longer something people avoided. It was something they trained with. From now on, every child knew the truth. The galaxy is dark, and we are the only fire left. The third moon was gone, burned, changed, destroyed. But something had survived. Something the enemy never meant for humans to see. Inside a damaged escape pod from the moon, engineers found a shard of unknown black crystal. It wasn't metal. It wasn't data. It pulsed, like a living thing warm to the touch. No one could scan it. No one could break it. But it whispered, not with sound, with images. The lead scientist, a quiet woman with no military rank, touched the shard. Suddenly, her eyes turned white. She fell to the floor. Guards rushed in, but she stood up calmly. She looked straight at the camera and said one thing. They're not gods. They're just hiding something. Then she passed out. When she woke, she had drawn something on the wall. It looked like a star system, far, deep beyond known space. The name? Zone Delta Black. It wasn't on any human map. Within hours, Earth Command acted. 3 stealth ships were launched. No one knew what they would find there. Some believed it was a trap. Others believed it was hope. But all of them knew. This might be the only chance to strike back. The ships reached Zone Delta Black after 2 silent days. What they saw wasn't a fleet. It was a graveyard. Hundreds of ships, some alien, some unknown. Floating, lifeless, frozen in time. In the middle of it all, a massive station, half buried in a shattered moon. No lights, no power. But deep inside, something pulsed, slowly, like a heartbeat. One scout said, "We're not the first ones here, but we might be the last." They sent drones inside. The drones entered the station, dead silence. But inside the central chamber, they found it, a memory core, still alive, still intact. Human tech couldn't read it, but the black shard could. They plugged it in. The core lit up. A message appeared. Not words, not images, memories. Everyone on the scout ship felt it at once. Flashes of war, millions of years old. A galaxy ruled by ancient beings, not the ones attacking now. Something, even older. The current enemy, these shadow creatures, weren't leaders. They were survivors, slaves who had broken free. They had turned on their masters, erased them, and now moved system by system, making sure nothing ever grew again. Their weakness? They fear memory. They destroy all history, all knowledge, all voices of the past, because buried deep in the past is a weapon. The message ended. The black shard melted into dust. But Earth had what it needed: proof, direction, purpose. If humans could find more of these ancient memory cores, if they could rebuild the truth, they could expose the enemy to the galaxy, and that would be their first real wound. Back on Earth, the commander gave a new order: begin Operation Echo. We're not just fighting to survive now. We're fighting to make the galaxy remember. From Mars to the moons of Saturn, deep core teams began hunting old wrecks, ruins, hidden data vaults. Humans started building a new kind of fleet. Ships, with weapons that didn't just destroy. They revealed exposed, burned away shadows with light and memory. But the enemy wasn't blind. In a distant system, they saw the human scouts enter Zone Delta Black. They saw them take the memory core. And, for the first time, they hesitated. One creature spoke in a voice like static and fire. "The cycle cannot restart." Another answered, "Then we end them now." And in the void, a black sphere opened. From it, something came through. Not a ship, not a fleet, something ancient, something even the shadows feared. They had awakened it. Earth didn't know. The humans were celebrating. The first real intel had given them hope. Even children began painting stars again. They thought the tide had turned. They thought the war was changing, and it was. Just not how they expected, because the true enemy was finally awake. The stars had gone quiet again, but this time it wasn't peace. It was the calm before something terrifying. Earth had new strength, new knowledge, and for the first time in the war, a plan. Operation Echo had unlocked dozens of old memory cores. Each one revealed more about the enemy, where they came from, what they feared, and most importantly, where their power lived. A system with no name. A region marked as Void Zone, No Return. At its center, a black hole surrounded by structures so massive even light avoided them. Inside, according to the old memories, was the control mind, the enemy's heart, and Earth wanted to strike it. The mission was called Ash Arrow, not because it would leave behind ash, but because it would likely never return. 10 warships, 1 Death Fleet dreadnought, a single goal: fly into the void, hit the control mind, burn its memory into the stars. If they failed, no one would find their bodies. If they succeeded, the war could end. The fleet jumped into the black zone, and what they saw made even the bravest warriors freeze. Space was wrong here. The stars twisted, light bent in circles, dead planets floated like bones, and all around them giant black towers stood in silence. No life, no movement, until Earth's ships moved forward. That's when the void screamed. Out of nothing, the defenders appeared. Not ships, not creatures, living weapons. They moved like ink in water. They absorbed missiles, they ignored lasers. They weren't fighting, they were consuming. "Open all fire," the human commander shouted. The space lit up with plasma, nukes, and fusion beams. For a few seconds it worked, but then the control mind awoke. The towers began to pulse. One by one they linked together, like a network, and then a shape began to form above the black hole. Huge, shadowed, unnatural. It wasn't built. It was grown. A being as large as a moon, formed from the collected fear, death, and silence of every world the enemy had destroyed. "You were warned," it said. "Now you will forget." Suddenly, Earth's ships started losing power. Lights dimmed. Engines failed. Even the AIs began whispering strange words. "Sleep now, sleep now, sleep now." But Earth's final ship, the old dreadnought, still had one last card to play. Inside, it was a memory core so ancient it couldn't be erased. It didn't hold weapons, it held names. The names of every world destroyed, the names of every child burned, the names the control mind had tried to erase. The captain activated it. The core sent out a signal not of fear but of truth. The towers screamed, the shadows pulled back, the control mind flinched. "You remember." That was the opening. The dreadnought charged forward, its weapons overheated, its hull cracking. But it didn't stop. Right into the control mind's heart. One shot, fired from the deepest cannon, a payload of light, memory, and all the pain of Earth. The control mind shuddered, and then it cracked. A wave of fire spread across the void. The towers fell. The black creatures burned. For a moment, space became clean. Earth's fleet didn't make it out. None returned. But their final signal did. A message sent through gravity waves and carried by memory cores. Target hit. Control mine broken. The dark bleeds. Finish this. Back on Earth, people wept. But they didn't cry from fear. They cried because, for the first time, the enemy was afraid. The skies lit up with Earth's full war fleet, not retreating, not hiding, marching, and, above them, written on every screen, "Next, we bring the fire," because humanity had just done the impossible. And now, the galaxy would see what comes after fire in the void. The fire in the void was still burning, but something had changed. The enemy, once unstoppable, untouchable, unbreakable, was now bleeding, and the galaxy could feel it. For the first time in living memory, systems once silent now sent signals, not of surrender, not of fear, but of hope. A dozen species who had hidden in the dark began calling out. One message echoed across all of space. We saw the light. It came from Earth. But Earth didn't stop to celebrate. Not yet. Because the war wasn't over, and the enemy wasn't finished. With the control mine destroyed, the shadow forces became wild, angrier, faster, more chaotic. They attacked every outpost, every satellite, every signal tower. They weren't fighting to win anymore. They were fighting so no one would survive. The galaxy was falling apart. But Earth had a plan. One final move. One final fleet. And one impossible weapon. Deep beneath Antarctica, a secret project had waited for centuries. It wasn't a bomb. It wasn't a gun. It was a ship, if it could still be called that. A city-sized core powered by old physics, forgotten science, and one rule: it could rewrite stars. It was called Judgment, and now it would fly. Across Earth, people watched as Judgment rose into the sky. It was silent. No engines, no noise, just gravity bending around it. It wasn't built to travel. It was built to end things. The mission was simple. Find the last shadow, stronghold, detonate the core, light up the darkness forever. There was no coming back, and yet thousands volunteered. The ship could only take 50. 50 boarded. None looked back. As Judgment flew across the stars, the final human fleets opened paths with fire. Alien allies joined the fight, tentative, scared, but willing, because Earth had given them something the enemy never allowed, a reason to fight. The battle stretched for weeks. The final stronghold, an ancient ring world wrapped around a dying star, was protected by more than just weapons. It was surrounded by the last of the shadows, and something new, something worse. The shadow's final creation rose from the star's edge. It was not a ship. It was not alive. It was the end. Moon-sized construct made of memory shards and broken history, designed to erase not just life but the idea of life. If it activated, everything would be forgotten. The past, the future, the stars themselves. Judgment entered firing range. Itso, Captain, once a quiet engineer, spoke only 3 words. Let them remember. He pressed the core ignition. The galaxy flashed white. The light reached across sectors. Shadow fleets shattered. The ring world cracked like glass. The memory weapon fell into the dying star, and the final pulse of Judgment carried one signal across all known space. We are still here. Then silence. Back on Earth, no one knew what to expect. Then, across every communication line in the galaxy, something happened. Planets that had been dark for centuries sent back signals. Species once thought extinct began to speak. One by one, stars that had been lifeless began to show energy again. Memory returned, and with it, life. Humanity had won. Not by force, not by fear, but by refusing to forget. They didn't erase the enemy. They burned their silence. and in doing so became something else. Not just warriors, not just survivors, but guardians of truth. Years later, a child on a distant world looked at the sky and asked, "Who saved us?" The old one beside them smiled and said, "Once the stars were dark, then came the fire, and they called themselves human."